Hello everyone. Today I would like to read out the 19th chapter titled Between the Filtered and the Unfiltered Story from my manuscript, The Imprisonment. This is a fictional story created for awareness and storytelling. It does not promote or justify any form of crime or harmful activity. Viewer discretion is advised. I'd like to read out the story. The next day, Archana arrived at the cell. She was ready to continue listening. That day, Samir narrated his entire life story, unfiltered, raw, complete. But Archana, as a student of marketing and branding, chose not to pass everything forward. Some parts, she felt, should remain unseen, not because they weren't real, but because they might affect the audience in the wrong way. Even though she had begun to see him with sympathy, he was still a criminal. Her sympathy came because he had accepted his mistakes. So she decided only the gist would be recorded. In the years that followed, Samir's business expanded, not just within the country, but overseas as well. He accumulated wealth, more than enough to live a luxurious life for himself and his family. The man who mentored him passed away due to illness. Before dying, he appointed Samir as his heir. Samir could have returned to normal life, but something had changed. Ambition, power, luxury, they pulled him deeper. And there was no easy way back. He had no intentions of returning. His group liked him. There were no internal rivalry. But outside, the enemies were growing. Rival groups hated his rise. Still, he expanded strategically, protected by loyal people, surrounded by trust and fear. His empire grew layer by layer, silently and dangerously. When he was 27, he visited the same streets outside the prison again. During one of his food distribution drives, he met a young girl around 19. She looked disturbed, fragile, and something about her caught his attention. Her name was Sitara. Samir offered her parents money, promising stability, respect, security, and then he proposed marriage. Archana listened in silence, surprised. A man known for power and cruelty was now speaking of love. But Sitara was terrified. She cried. She begged her parents not to marry her to him. Everyone knew his reputation, his world, his darkness. When he left, she broke down and said, "It's better to die than marry that Don. I'd rather marry a beggar from the streets." But her parents, driven by poverty, saw only one thing, a better future, and Sitara was forced into marriage. The first days were difficult, unfamiliar, heavy, but slowly life shifted. Samir had darkness in his world, illegal trades, trafficking, power games, but with Sitara he was different. He treated her like a queen, never forced her, never pressurized her, and slowly something changed. Sitara softened, the fear reduced, and in time acceptance grew. They began living a life that looked peaceful on the surface. Years passed, and then Ajay was born. Samir and Sitara had big dreams for him. He was sent to the best institutions, every sorry, given every luxury, every opportunity. At first, he was kept away from the business, but later, Samir realized his son would inherit everything. Meanwhile, the empire kept expanding, and somewhere along the way, it connected to terror networks. Samir rose further until he became one of the leaders of a feared organization. Sitara never saw that face. She passed away earlier, before the final transformation. She had no role in the expansion, no control over what it became. Samir finished speaking. Everything, but Archana chose not to record certain parts. Too dark, too disturbing, too complex for readers. Instead, she focused on understanding the roots. Across the cell, Anamika listened carefully, completely silent. As a psychologist, she knew every word was true. She waited, not for shock, but for direction, for the parts of the story that would lead to the fall and possibly redemption. Archana felt conflicted. There was hatred for what he had become, but also a strange balance from where he had started. The law would not forgive him, and as a citizen, Archana felt he deserved punishment. That evening, she returned to the guest house. Darshan was already working, planning the Shanti Ghar project. Archana looked at him. Bhaiya, she said, do you think you should even take up this project? Maybe just drop it. Darshan looked up. What happened, Archana? She told him everything. Then asked quietly, do you think people like him should ever be forgiven? Darshan paused, then replied calmly, if we don't think about reform, the fight between good and the evil will never end, he continued. Why did Anamika turn to crime? She was reacting to people like Samir. Who made the world unsafe? She believed children shouldn't grow in such a world. What if we remove crime from the roots and build something ethical? Shantighar could be that model. He looked at her. And Archana, since you are already documenting their lives, you must also think of reform, not just their fall. Don't push them deeper into darkness. We should try to make the world safer. Archana frowned. Bhaiya, don't compare me with criminals. I may sympathize, but I don't like them. She stood up. It wasn't a good day. I'm not hungry. I just need rest. She went to her room, trying to process everything Anamika, Samir, their stories, their contradictions. And one question stayed with her. Can people like this truly change? Or is reform just another illusion? That's all for the day. Do let me know your thoughts about this chapter by writing in the comment section. Thanks for watching and thanks for your time.